This is Varsity Bookworm, and today I'm speaking with Clayton and Becca Aazlor, the founders of a new religious movement called Fun-ism. Drawing upon a range of influences from philosophy, psychology, and even tabletop gameplay, Fun-ism represents a new and unique approach to the formation of religious faith and practice. As the name would suggest, fun is at the center of this belief system, much in the same way that salvation or enlightenment may be at the center of others. But exactly in what sense can fun be imbued with religious meaning? Why do they think fun is so important? And what does the religion of Fun-ism have to offer? We're going to find out all about it today from the founders of Fun-ism. Enjoy. Hello, Clayton and Becca. How are you guys today?
Great.
Good.
It's Clayton, you had sent me some writings related to Fun-ism, and I think my first kind of takeaway, first of all, it's incredibly comprehensive. And at certain points, it seems like you've described it as a religion. At other points, it seems like it's instructions for some kind of role-playing game. Then there's like a little bit of philosophy and psychology. And I guess I'm kind of wondering, how do all these moving pieces sort of come together in this system that you call Fun-ism?
So I love that you're bringing up Transcendence, which was what I sent you. That is a tabletop RPG system that I created. I took actually a lot of our ideals of philosophy and my study of psychology and neuroscience and behaviors, and not just from college, but actually interacting with people, spending time learning about how that works. So basically, I took all of this, and I'll explain how it actually works in a second, and decided I wanted to create an RPG system that could be anything. You're not limited by what is your class choice or what is this background or what's going on. I just got so tired of having so many different games and systems just kind of feel like they bottomed out, where it was we want to be creative, but the constraint of the game is breaking our fun and our immersion. So I took all of my philosophies and stuff, brought them together, and tried to create a game system that can be anything. It is a framework of order that chaos arises from, which was incredibly difficult to do because I had to basically set the way the context scales by inverting it. So instead of saying, hey, here's the rules of the system, I had to go, okay, how does it actually work if you learn something? If you have a skill or you can do something, how would you be able to take all of the aspects of how a body or a character or an ability functions and break them down in a way where the simple context of adding a word or two as a descriptor actually creates the limit of what that thing is, and that gives you the context for how it works. So instead of saying the game going, it works like this, figure it out, it's, okay, here's how to figure it out. What are you putting in there? And how does that play into your game, your narrative, your world? So how would you actually build a world in your mind, share it with other people, and have them join in and contribute to the world, and have everyone together be the people that establish what the rules are, how the physical parts of the world work, and just grow it together when you're role-playing, instead of having it all be on one person.
So is this something that sort of is like a template that you can apply to pretty much any role-playing game? Could you take this and apply it to Dungeons and Dragons and then apply it to
Absolutely.
Call of Cthulhu or something?
Yeah, we literally have. We did a game where we made a bunch of frogs that were summoned by magical kids in another world. So we're normal Earth frogs, and we're okay, so how would you role play a frog? What is its structure and its mobility? Our other partner Kirsten decided to do something where she had swallow and consume as skills, and someone was like, "What's the difference between swallow and consume?" And she goes, "Well, swallow is endurance, but consume is willpower." And all of a sudden, you see everybody's imagination go, "Oh my!" I get it. And it was just that, how do you take that? I get it, and put it together into a game where the more you do that together, the more everyone's like, I see what you're doing there. I'm doing this and I'm doing it in these steps. And everyone's like, oh, right here, this happens. And you're actually living in the moment of your role playing instead of like deciding like, do we play together and then roll dice and then like break it up? And the way that I wanted to do that is so you set up all the narrative and it scaffolds up and you go, okay, we're rolling dice. And at this part in the action, we have to compare to see like how did that play out and then go like back down into the role play. So it was kind of this wave system. And it was just fun. And it was all built weirdly enough. The philosophy I'm talking about now and the way I'm saying this is coming after it was built. What built into it was like, how would physical reality work in a way that would be able to explain literal infinity? And it started with that and then worked its way into a game and then worked its way back out the other side to if you're just having fun, you can see how everything just plays out as being more fun. And why would you bother with anything else? So it kind of started with the like philosophical, physics-based, quest for the answer to life, the universe, and everything. How would we know what is the universal truth? Or even just failing that, is there a way of creating a unified theory where no matter what you throw at it, it'll make sense? And what's in the way of that?
Mhm.
Is it your worldview you have to break? Is it some different aspect? Like what's going on there? And that's preventing you from getting to the point where you can understand what's going on. Because we all know every science, every religion, everybody has never gotten there. So any way you go is a valid way to start.
So the reason Transcendence was kind of included in our here's our cult literature is because
Mhm.
it is essentially Clayton's unified theory of everything cleverly disguised as a game that we've also decided to use as the holy book for our religion.
Yeah, Clayton had mentioned to me that he kind of developed sort of the seeds of this belief system, but that it was your kind of project to kind of turn it into a bona fide
Oh,
religion, I guess. Is that
oh
right?
yeah. Yeah, no. We met at a community college a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, I was really kind of sick of how people use their religions to antagonize people and be awful and all this stuff. And so I was like, yeah, I have a religion. It's called Fun-ism. I'm the high priestess. And then Clayton was like, we could make this a real religion. I've got all this philosophy work and I've got all this research I want to do. We could just make that a religion. And I'm like, please, let's do that.
Is this the sort of thing that when you play this Transcendence game that ultimately is it supposed to have some sort of impact on the way that people kind of live their lives outside of the game?
Yes, and the way is actually a little bit different than it would normally seem.
Okay.
So there's there's two ways it could happen. The standard one would be, oh, now that you play Transcendence so much, you see everything in terms of Transcendence. But the other way, and this is the way that I'm hoping it gets to when you start doing that, is going, hold up, I don't have enough context for this. Just straight up, I need more context to be able to figure out what I'm actually trying to accomplish here. And just having that click in their head, they're like, wait, hold up, what actually am I trying to do? I don't know how to take the steps to get
People
there.
start asking asking the questions to get what they want to do done. As Transcendence says in the the intended outcomes.
I'm sorry, that's the first time she ever just referred to Transcendence. Like it says in the Bible, like it says in Transcendence.
I was wait.
It's the first time she's ever done that. It just came out of her mouth. But
Cult leader moment.
yeah. So you have the mechanics in there that are the kind of most easy to understand and the hardest to actually really use is the intended outcome in order of operations. And that's like saying, okay, I have a bunch of skills I'm performing, so I'm gonna jump, punch, duck, and roll whatever in this order. And this is how I want it to go off in my action because this is my intended outcome. This is what I'm trying to do. And then at some point, somebody in there is like, okay, I'm going to try to dodge the punch here so I don't get hit with that. And so now you're like, all right, what skills are you slotting against somebody who's faster, who's got more stats, who's got better skills? if you make somebody do that too much, then they start running out of resources and stamina because they've already had to dodge 4 punches in a half second. So you kind of, the idea of the puzzle, the resource game, all of the mechanics, keep building in. So every moment of the game that you're playing it, you're adding context and actually defining and being part of the story instead of watching it play out. But it all goes back to that kind of, what is your intended outcome and what are the exact order of operations you're taking to try to get there, and what is someone else doing, and how to kind of look at that step. So when you're interacting with people, you can kind of get an idea of what they're trying to do and how close they are to getting there, and if they're deviating or not. And if you can't see how what they're doing gets there, then either you're going to watch something funny because they're going to fall down somewhere, or you're going to see somebody do something that you had no idea how to do, and now you can use that information as basis for knowledge to advance your skills. And just kind of roll this whole game back to just getting used to having fun, observing people without any idea of being judged in the moment because you're too busy wondering what they're about to do.
Kind of reminds me of a card game that I was taught when I was in Boy Scouts. I think it was called Mao was the name of the card game. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, we've had good and bad experiences with it.
I've only had bad.
Yeah.
You've only had bad. I had good when I was
Yeah. It's just for people that don't know, it's basically this game where like the main rule is you're not allowed to ask the rules, right? And every time you ask what are we doing here, you get penalized. Usually they give you another card. Is that sort of the idea with Transcendence, that it's sort of this learning process instead of just here are the rules and
reverse now.
It's reverse. So instead of you being penalized for not knowing something, you actually get rewarded for figuring, like for learning something new or for trying something out, for experimenting, for like, it's not about like even in the game you develop popped or points of potential that you can use to increase your knowledge and skills by using your stamina and using your focus and trying out things, and just the more complex and the more you get creative with what you're doing, the more like you're earning pop automatically, and the more the role of the realm should be tossing these points of potential because you're experimenting within the confines of what's going on, trying to intercept. And the moment you have that good idea, everyone goes, oh, that, and you're like, okay, yeah, no, that was. And you get this kind of collective contributivist reward from everybody when somebody has a good idea. So everyone starts throwing out the craziest thing they can think of because either it's a brilliant idea and it might just work, or it's horrible and it'll be a great story. And it kind of teaches you how fun that can be to just be in a state where, like, one way or another, the table's going to remember this moment. Let's go. And either that, and if it just keeps going good for you, you're just having a great time being insane in that character. So now, next time you play, you got to pick an entirely different stereotype of character to be insane with, so they don't know what you're planning on doing. And that starts growing your imagination. Like, that actually starts helping your brain redevelop all of the connective points from the generative linguistics and the base level logics and emotional instincts from sensory input up through processes and limitations of what you can physically do, because you're used to the idea of, what could I actually pull off? How would I do this? What do I know? What do I know how to do? And it'll start leading to you feeling naturally more comfortable coming up with interesting ideas in different moments. And if they go bad, well, hey, at least you tried. Like, something fun happened. Like, if it goes bad, that's a story. And if it's like you think of something fun, but you're like, but know all of this, that actually wouldn't be fun to do. Well, now you know why it's not fun to do. So you don't have to now sit and worry about why certain things that would be fun wouldn't. You're just like, oh, this is hilarious, but I don't want to have that happen. So, not worth my time. Like, I'm not going to, go die for that. It's just that kind of almost continuous positive reward system for successfully using your imagination.
One of the first things that I came up in the Transcendence primer was that, like, the whole goal of this system, this game system you're designing, is fun. And I guess maybe this sounds like a dumb question, but isn't that the point of all games? So I guess kind of the real question is, like, what is it about Transcendence that and Fun-ism that is different from other games and other religions? And also, I guess maybe third question, sorry, is where exactly is the line between Fun-ism and Transcendence?
Transcendence is the RPG game system that I created. You could think of it as like the magical holy Bible with the secrets of the universe hidden away in there. Because
the esoteric secret.
Yeah, which is a great way of saying, like, if you spend enough time with the game, you will get more intelligent and you will be able to solve problems faster. Like, it just will make you smarter, like, without you even realizing it, because you're naturally allowing the parts of your brain that you're always going, wait, hold on, like, is that okay, to get rewarded every time it does go, yes, that is okay. And so you're building a series of positive feedback loops through your imagination and contextualization of things through the, like, with the way the game's structured. Now, while the point of most games might be to have fun, it's not necessarily that the point of the game is for everyone at the table to be generating fun and then putting it into the game. And so it's about getting everybody to be contributing what they believe to be fun right now, how they can see what they can do to, like, make this fun. And every time I've played it, like, I've even played with people that I knew like to mess up games, and they were just like, wow, I'm having a great time. And they're just constantly feeding in. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because I did not make it this good. Like, and they're just like, no, I had an idea. I put it on paper. I get to use it. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. There's nothing stopping you from doing what you want with your character other than what we're all agreeing to do together, and you not wanting to be like, oh, we're playing a D&D light game. Okay, so I pull out my lightsaber. And it's like, wait, what? No. Wrong table? I'm confused. So, yeah.
So is that the sort of thing that can happen when you're playing Transcendence? Like, you can be playing D&D and then someone says, I'm gonna incorporate some Star Wars elements into this.
Want to, yeah, it's literally up to the table. When I say it's up to the table, I mean everybody who's involved in the game.
Yeah, because part of it is you establish a, like, paradigm together, which, like, everything works through. And so it's like, if it makes sense for there to be a lightsaber, then there's a lightsaber. If it doesn't, then no.
No. If your table can make sense of playing a anime, Marvel, D&D style game, and has all of those elements, and it makes sense to you guys why the world is that way, use Transcendence, put that over it, and go play. Like, you literally can do anything. It's up to you to make sense of what it means for the power scaling, what it means for the levels, what that context means. And more importantly, in battle, because it's not just like, all right, roll dice, do damage. It's, I'm trying to accomplish this for this effect. And then someone's going, I'm using this to stop that from happening. And then you're like, all right, are we doing Kung Fu in our game now? And someone's like, no, I've got a gun. It's like, I can't dodge bullets. Like, you're shooting at me with a gun. Okay, what's the Transcendence level equivalent of me as a person and you as a gun? It's 3? That's a minus 15 to everything I'm doing. I'm just going to stand here and get shot because if I dodge, it might be worse. Because you pulled a gun and shot me and I'm just like a Kung Fu dude. What's going on? Dude, inside that Marvel D&D game, like, this is all things that can just be in the game and can be, like, both story-wise and mechanically equivalent. And, like, you know, real life in the game, if it's not important, don't bother using it. Like, if it makes no sense to bring this mechanic in right now, then it makes no sense to bring the mechanic in. So it's meant to be that kind of modular aspect. And so the dividing line between Transcendence and Funism is like, hey, we're the group of people that are all, like, on board for this, all this insanity. We think this all sounds great. Which I know we'll probably go into more a little bit later, because there's more than just playing games. But on board for all of our insanity. Hey, you're a funist. Also, just the idea of, hey, we could live, like, imagine if the whole world, if economics, if structures, if whatever, people were doing what they enjoyed because other people enjoyed them doing it, instead of whatever we have now, where whoever has enough money can force people to only have that option. Which, like, how would we fix that using fun as the, like, litmus test and measurement? And that is a hell of an undertaking, and I don't have an exact answer, but we're working on it. We have a lot of crazy ideas. If they work, fantastic. If they don't, we have an infinite amount of crazy ideas. Hopefully one of them will. Because
worst case scenario, we're having a good time.
Yeah.
That's a good motto. Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's the whole thing. Is like, well, if you're not having fun, what are you doing? And do you want to be doing it? Go have fun. People are like, well, what about my job? I don't like my job, but I like having a place to live. It's like, well, would it be more fun to have a place to live and go to your job, or to not have a place to live? And they're like, well, to have a place to live. I'm like, yeah, I can't just like reach up into the sky and be like, it'd be fun if I could just like pull down bricks of gold. Maybe. I don't know. Would it be fun if everyone could do that? Probably not. Like, who knows? Who cares? But like,
would we even still bother with economies at that point?
what are we even talking about? Like, why am I pulling down bricks of gold? Like, there's a whole other thing going on in the universe that is a little bit more important than how fun that would be, as into like, wait, why is this real? Let's go explore that, which leads to be very fleshed out worlds. If you ever want a tip for world building, just, okay, I changed this one thing about the world. How does that change everything before I get back to my original thought? Because I need that to go, okay, so like, why is this happening? And now you have a fully fleshed out world and it took you like 30 seconds without you realizing. And the game is meant to kind of teach you to take yourself on that loop of, well, why is this what I can do? Oh, because of all of this. Oh, but then I can do this with it. And it opens up your paradigms, opens up your worldview. And yeah, that's why it's our holy text, I guess. I'm not doing a very good job separating the RPG system from the religion, am I?
I mean, to be fair, we made it the like holy document for a reason. Because it like accidentally like explains the universe in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a game, but it's also like the culmination of so many years of your like philosophy research, and like we just keep looking at it and we're just like, this makes sense for everything. This works really well in every scenario.
I should
Like not even just playing games, like just everyday life sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like literally, if what I ended up creating in that RPG system using my perspective, because I can't even call it my philosophy at this point, because I can't just be like, here, this is what it says. It's just like, you do this and this happens. I'm working on getting it out there. Basically, no matter what counterfactual you think of for the world, no matter which way you could imagine, like, what would it be like to be a toaster? Like, anything that you can imagine inside of a human brain, you can put over the rule system of Transcendence and go play whatever you can imagine it's applicable to. Like the way a body would have to function, or a spirit, or a mind, or any way that you can conceptualize a reality working, you can put as basically the narrative paradigm around the game of Transcendence. So you can use Transcendence as a model to approach any kind of problem you want in any way that makes sense to you if you don't have any idea what you're looking at. It doesn't matter what it is, because it's just a kind of shell for the way that like we automatically generate context for what's going on around us.
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me in the first text that you sent me was you said that the more you play this game, the more it changes the way that you think. And I guess, do you have any like examples that come to mind of how playing this game and incorporating these ideas into your own lives has sort of had that sort of perspective shift for you?
Dude, we talk in Transcendence terms like all the time. Sometimes if I get confused about something I'm doing, it's just like, wait, okay, what's my intended outcome here? Like, what is my order of operations? What skills am I using? What am I doing here?
So the language, it seems, is kind of like its own useful tool just to have.
Definitely.
Sort of.
You find yourself struggling and you're like, I should just be able to power through this. Why am I having this weird feeling? And you look at doubt and it's like, oh yeah, that just like goes ahead and makes a bunch of stuff with disadvantage and I can't use my metal. So if I'm doubting myself, I can't even just like go, I'm going to get through this. Like I can't have the confidence to just charge through and enjoy myself because I'm in the middle of doubting myself. Like the way that it all works together is any way that you can go, hey, how can I think about this? All right, I'm going to use this language, because the game itself is not a paradigm you have to adopt to understand things. It is almost like a structured lexicon that you can use to translate between ways of seeing things. I think
I
would
like
be
that.
the best way of saying that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And I'm very high, so that took me a long time to get to. But I got there. That's where I was going the whole time.
Destination.
I've been on this trip with like metaphysical space for a while, because it's like, when you're thinking about something and you're like, you're like, I see it. I see it. It's on the tip of my, like, you're moving towards something. Like there's something there. Space is real.
You're
like,
moving.
I've been like mad at physicalists for so long because
Okay.
like dualism would be right, except for the fact that why would it be dualistic if it's the same thing? Like you keep talking about like, oh, we've got quantum mechanics and space inside of space and all these dimensional angles and all of this, right? Okay, so what if one part of your body is quantum entangled with things that aren't locally proximalized and the other part of your body isn't? And that's why when you go on drugs, things start moving around and you're just like, I have to get there. And you're like, oh, where's the kitchen? It's all the way over there. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Why can't that be? Like parts of you are experiencing how other parts of you are seeing the distance between things and like how you'd have to look at them. And so if there's metaphysical space, quantum entanglement, whatever term you want to use, then you could easily start thinking about something, bump into something and be like, what? Oh, that bothers me. Try to figure out what it is that's bothering you. And then now you've been obsessed about like literally nothing for like 3 days and you've had a bad attitude and you don't remember what you were doing before this. And then you snap out of it. And you're like, what the hell was going on? Like, no drugs involved. Like people just do that all the time. Like little things happen. It becomes like a tick, like just a little, I don't know what's going on. You just feel a little bit disconnected. And then just like, I don't know, something happens. You just go back to having a good time. But now it just feels like, if you really think about it, like you forgot about something. Like something that was important to you is lost forever. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't like it. I don't care. So you could almost say, like, if you wanted to get rid of all of the things that ever bothered you that you've hung on to forever, you could play Transcendence and have a therapy game where you're all of your demons. You could play whatever you want, depending on whoever wants to play with you. But yeah, the idea is essentially just if you're having a good time, you're going to keep doing whatever you enjoy doing. People like being around people that are having a good time, as far as I can tell. And so people who want to have a good time will come have a good time with you. And if it turns out that you guys don't really get along for whatever reason, you're not going to start a fight with each other because like, we don't like having a good time together. We are going to go have better times not together because it would be more fun. And then you're like, this is so much fun. No, we are going to be frenemies forever because we enjoy the same things, but we hate. Oh, and later on, we're like, we're so dumb now that we're adults. Like you could have that. Or you could not have that if you don't want to. If you're like, I would love to just have a cabin in the woods and I come down to the town like every 3 weeks for supplies. Okay, cool. Like if we take over the world, we'll figure out how to get enough of you of the cabins that you want. I think that sounds great. Like you guys will probably come up with some really cool stuff. And at the very least, we don't have to worry about you dumping 1 billion gallons of toxins into a river.
I had a question for Becca. What you are the high priestess of Funism, right?
Yeah.
What exactly does that entail?
Honestly, I just thought it was a cool title when I was like joking around about it. But now I'm just like, I'm like the religious leader. All the ideas are like Clayton, but like I'm the one kind of driving it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you guys would appreciate this comparison, and I don't mean it in a negative sense at all, but Heaven's Gate was kind of set up in a very similar way where they had kind of two leaders. One was kind of in charge of developing a lot of the ideas, and then another one was kind of more in charge of actually like relating to the members of the group. And actually, I only bring up that comparison too because we've had
I don't know anything about them.
I think it was Clayton and I had talked a little bit about the word cult, and you had kind of an interesting relationship with that word. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no. So when I say way back when, I mean like when I was a kid, young teen, whatever. Religion was always a fun thing to make fun of for me. I was just like, oh yeah, look at these guys, like just slaving away so they can go die and slave away some more. And that's what it says in their good book. Okay, I mean, you guys have fun youth groups and you give me free food, so I'm gonna come hang out sometimes. And there was a lot of that. So I was just kind of like looking into stuff, and the internet was starting to open up in like the mid 90s. When I was like in elementary school. But so there was like debates and arguments about like, oh, what's a religion and what's a cult, and there's all of and
it's really just about how many members you have.
Working up to that.
Oh, well, fine. You can talk.
I never really get to tell the story about how the internet evolved from a bunch of people that like to like research weird stuff. I say this because like the internet was really fucking fun when it like first became a thing, and then it like became corporate, and then it turned to shit. And it's like, can anyone do business right? Like, please. So anyways, the idea of a cult was anywhere between something like 11 and like 100,000 followers or something. And a religion is 1 million or more followers. Just here's a stricture or a structure that I can point to that has a set of rules that I agree to.
Okay.
Like, I'm not being coerced into it. Well, I might be, but actually, yeah, you're usually coerced into a religion, so never mind.
Well, I guess I was asking because you described Funism as a cult, and you were kind of unapologetic about that. Like, which I found was interesting.
We don't have 1 million members yet.
How many members do you have?
That we don't know how we exactly keep track of numbers, because it's like, all right, are we talking about people who are physically involved in like what we're actually trying to like build right now, or people who are like, all right, when you get to a point, let me know, or people who are like, yeah, I'm on board, call me a funist. I'll be there.
We have a lot of people who like call themselves funists, but they're not here with us.
Yeah, which is absolutely fine, because if they're like, yeah, no, I'm a funist, you guys are doing this, yeah, that sounds cool, like, here, I'll buy that from you. Like, if you've got extra left over, like, I'll help contribute to that. Like, that sounds like something I'd want to contribute to. And we've got a lot of people saying that. So the question is just stepping on a cord. Question is just kind of, where do we draw that line? It could be anywhere from, there's, you know, me, Becca, and our other wife sleeping on the couch right now. Well, not sleeping, but playing on her phone. Anyways, she doesn't like being on camera. She's like, no, you guys have fun. You do that. I'm just over here just like,
That's fine.
7 different things.
Yeah, everybody feels differently about it. Yeah. It took me a while to get even marginally comfortable in front of the camera, and I still struggle with it sometimes. So everybody's
I love it, but we're crazy like that. I've never had a problem with being on stage, being in front of a camera. I just treat it like I'm just talking to a person. There just might be people I don't know watching.
I actually used to be an opera singer, so I like performing. Yeah, it was super fun. I had to stop because we lived in an apartment full of toxic mold, and then I got sick and lost my voice, so I don't do that.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, you can look at like our lives as just like, wow, so much shit happened to them that they decided to do this. That seems cool. Or like, wow, they're absolutely fucking crazy. Or like, wow, people really wanted them to die, so this didn't happen. Like, just so much just absolutely like unbelievable insane shit. You're like, there's no way that's real. I'm like, that was last week. I have it on video. Just I don't usually have things on video. That's kind of fine.
We don't really,
but like things that to most people are like a once in a lifetime, like I remember that, my life flashed before my eyes. Like a semi truck from 100 feet away swerved into the middle of my road and came directly at me at 60 miles an hour. I'm like, yeah, I just like, that wasn't even I didn't even notice. I went around and I was like, did you see that guy just like literally just try to drive straight into me? And Kirsten was sitting in the passenger seat. She was like, yeah. It's like, I thought we were dead. I was like, oh, this is where I died. I was just like, why is a semi truck coming at me? Like, I'm so used to insane shit happening that I'm just like, oh, okay, so what's the situation? Semi truck's driving at you. What skills do you have? Go. Like, this is your order of operations. What's your intended outcome? To not be where he's going. I'm going this way. What are your skills in that? Okay, yeah, you swerve around the semi truck. Like, say, life, transcendence. I'm never going to stop with that. I'm high and I'm just stuck there. I'm like, yeah, I haven't got back to transcendence in a while because our editor's like busy with other stuff, and we were like making other. Yeah, he's busy being a 16-year-old kid. Like the editor.
Your editor?
Yeah. I met him when he was 13. We were both.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. We were both play testers for a game. It was an early alpha. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Fractured Veil. So we were both early alpha testers on there, and his name on Discord was World's OKest DM. And this was like just into the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, hey, do you want to run a D&D game for me and my friends? He's like, do you care that I'm 13? And I was like, do you care that we're in our 20s and 30s? He's like, no, I run games for my dad's friends all the time. So we just started gaming with him on Discord over the pandemic, had a lot of fun. And I was like, hey, I've been working on this like RPG for a while. Like, here's what I want to do with it. Like, do you want to like be my soundboard and help me make it make sense to like normal people speaking English? Because I have no idea where to start with all this and how to translate it down into something that makes sense. And we spent like, what, 2.5 years doing it?
Wow.
Yeah, just translate perspective into a game.
And so, like, is this, I mean, again, maybe another dumb question, but is this something that exists like in a box that someone orders and then they own the Transcendence game?
Not yet.
That's something we want to do.
Yeah, like
I gotta have like these really cool books that you can like set on a desk and it opens like this, like have this fold in a certain way, and it's like leather bound, so it's like you have the holy book of Transcendence, and it's all fancy like that.
So when you describe it as a religion, like, I mean, is that, I guess, what is religious about it? Like beyond like because you said it's a little bit more than just playing games. Like what is kind of beyond that?
So the reason that I'm big on like this is a religion is because it's a way of understanding the world that we're like unifying. Because that's kind of how I understand religion to be. And so with Transcendence, it's like we're using Transcendence as our unified way of understanding the world. Or like we're using the funnest kind of way of life to understand the world. And like, I don't know if I had anything else to say.
Is that kind of what you mean by like the worldview and the paradigm and the context and all these other kind of terms that come up in the writings?
Essentially, yeah, that's kind of the big thing, and that is, how do you see the world? How do you understand the way that it works? How would you understand it to work if you knew that it worked a different way? And how would you, figure that out? And because anybody who's ever gone just from like chemistry to a computer lab is like, hold on, I have to change the way I'm thinking now. I can't think like this. I need to think like this. And it's kind of aggravating to have to like go between different things you're doing and constantly change the way you're thinking, like the very language you're thinking and the ways that you're thinking about doing things, just to like go through the steps and making sense of it. I had a big gripe about that when I was a programmer, because every time I talked to somebody, like they kept trying to change what we were doing instead of how they were thinking about it. And so everything broke. And then I had to fix it all, like constantly. And I was trying to teach people this and nobody would listen. So I tried to publish, hey, here's my philosophy of programming. Here's how you do this. And they were like, oh, where'd you do your like doctoral work? And da 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 da. I was like, what? All right, I'll go back to school. And then I'm sitting here in philosophy going.
Well, I was just going to say, I run into that with philosophers all the time, where it's like, I thought we all agreed this is what this philosophical word means. And someone else comes along and is like, I'm doing something totally different with that word. And then it's like, well, what's the next step? How do we continue
That is exactly the reason I don't fuck with philosophy.
Yeah, it's aggravating. And then like most of the time they're missing how the other person was using it. And I'm just like, I need to publish some way, somehow, someone can learn how to see something in a different way. That's like, and how would I get people to do it? Well, if it was fun, people wouldn't be able to shut up about it. And then they'd be bringing their friends and then it'd be more fun. And I'm like, you know what? I'd love to live in a world that was more fun. Let's, hey, here's a holy book. Here's a religion. What else could we do? I've come up, like, there's designs for like vertical, like elevated electrified podways. So we could get rid of roads, tire dust, all like concrete, refit things so you can just get into a pod, punch in where you want to go. It'll tell you how long to get there.
God, I can't believe we haven't like said why we really like that our holy book is a game, because games are fun. I feel like that's important to have said.
I thought that was just directly implied with Fun-ism and Transcendence, but
I thought about that a little bit, but I feel like we should say that.
Oh, I was putting a lot of effort into saying why it's not just about having fun. It's a lot more to do with how to generate fun and recognize what you could go and do that would be fun instead of waiting for a list of options to appear in a menu above your head for you to pick.
Yes.
You can actually generate your own fun, and here's how to recognize when it is and is not fun for you to be doing that.
Yes. Okay, we're good.
There's that. But yeah, like for religion, we got, it boils into like a lot of beliefs where we're like, look, okay, at this point, this is what we think would be fun, which you could just summarize to things that keep everybody like interacting in a copacetic way. If you don't like Like if you are pro-life and you're like, no, abortions are not okay, no matter what the situation is, we go, okay, and who is everybody who agrees and feels that way? How do we put you together in a way that is beneficial for the rest of us? Like, it's okay if you want to believe that. Here's everybody that believes. Like, how do we make echo chambers a positive experience instead of a negative? Instead of it being these people are out to get us, it's everyone's here to help us. We're the only ones who believe this. Like, so we're going to do this together, but they don't want it and they don't want us to hurt. So it's kind of just think about having a friend group. Like if you have one friend that just, I don't know, like every like 3 days, like just needs to get hit in the face. It doesn't need to be either. Just every 3 days, somebody needs to slap him in the face and just be like, dude, knock it off. Like you see it start in his face. You slap and he goes, oh, thank you. I don't know what that was. And his mother's like, I dropped him once as a baby. And everyone's like, oh, and he's like, you dropped me? And she goes, I love you. And he goes, enough to drop me, apparently. Well, at least he held on to me since then. And it becomes a joke because like if he was dropped and he has a nervous tick where it just like needs to get like a charge reset from a slap to his face, like that's how his brain registers it.
That's kind of a wild example.
Yeah, that's a wild example, but like if everyone's like, yeah, okay, you see him going and you all look at each other and you start playing rock, paper, scissors to see whose turn it is to slap your friend in the face. And every time, like, you know, he knows you're slapping him. Like, if I'm the guy getting slapped, I know they're slapping me out of love. Like, and because they're having a great time. So how would I have a great time? I slap him like every time. So like, but we also would recognize, like, it'd be like, there's a limit. If any one of us just hauls off and just like actually tries to like hit the guy really, we're like, whoa, no. You're an asshole. Get out of here. We don't do that. Like, this is a game we're playing. We're all trying to have fun. If all of a sudden he's nervous and scared and we're beating, like, that's not fun. We don't want to do that. Knock that off. And being able to actually just have that as a thing. Like, there's people who want to do that. There's people who want to get hit that hard. Let's go find them for you.
I mean, maybe this sounds like a weird comparison, but like, I keep thinking about that Marxist slogan of like, from each according to ability to each according to need. It almost seems like it's to each according to like what they think is fun, you know, or something like that. You know, it seems like it's kind of like based around this idea of like conflict resolution between people who have different ideas about what's fun and what's not.
Yeah, the conflict resolution part could be actually a good way of putting it. I would say instead of to each, I'd say from each, because our actual economic model that we're working on is called Contributive-ism.
Okay.
It comes from the idea that everyone, every human that exists, every mammal that exists that is not a solitary animal, but even to some degree there, wants to contribute to the group that it sees itself as a part of. It could be whatever different way. It's just, if you think about any form of friend group, there's a way you see yourself as joining in on that friend group and bringing something worthwhile to it.
Yeah, like how people are like, oh, I'm the mom friend, or I'm the funny friend, or whatever. I'm the friend with the garage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to think of yourself as that way. You're just like, yeah, no, hey guys, come on, come hang out in my garage. And they're like, yeah, he's got the garage. And I'm like, I like hanging out with these guys. You want to contribute. That's what makes you feel like you're part of the group, is you have something to bring to the group that the group's happy to have. So what if we actually started leveraging that to develop a base level society and then create an economic system out of that? Because if everyone's contributing and nobody's taking, then everyone can go, I want that. I can do this with it. We're like, yes, he can do that with it. Take it and go. Come back and bring us whatever you make out of it. And then we can, like, you know, everybody's, if you want to invent things, you can just invent whatever you want. And all you need for the resources is convincing anyone else to be like, yeah, I'll back that. Like, if you can't do it entirely on your own, you might need something from somewhere else. Ask the people who are interested. Ask the people who have it and see what they would want to do. And if it's the entire community or everybody, any resources beyond what people need or they're like their personal that they worked for or created, it's just, yeah, what do you want to do with it? Let's go. Like, and when we ask what you want to do with it, it's because we might want to do that with you. So you can get a bunch of people doing a bunch of things together that they think is fun, and everyone else is just like, I want to know what they're up to, and only the people who are interested or involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it should be like such a natural shift, like I'm saying nothing. But one of the kind of benefits of this as an economic system is those of us that are involved who don't really want to be rich, we don't really care. We just like, we want to live a decent life. We want to have access to healthcare, good food. Maybe we make our own clothes because there's certain styles we think are fun, or maybe we just want to be able to have a certain amount of things, but we're not like, oh yeah, if I had the money, I'd buy a yacht. Like if I had the money, I'd go pay somebody to do something I think is cool with it. And that's kind of the thing, is it's just a big communal. I have this, can somebody make it less boring? Like alchemy for the world. Can somebody make this more fun? Like I'm not having fun with this, take it. Go have fun with it. Go find a way of doing this for fun. And we're like, someone's like, oh, I want to do this. Like he's enthusiastic. It looks like he's having a good time. What are you doing with this? Take it and go. Come back and let me know. Or, stay here and do it. Whatever's most fun. Go. Like just everybody doing that. Like, how do we, I hate to say it this way, but like, how do we re-jockify the planet where everybody's a jock? Pre-jocks were assholes. When it was like, yeah, watch like I go. And it's just like, watch it, like, hold my beer, I'm going to do this. And they do something like, oh, that was great. And like, are you going to go? And you're like, no. And they're like, okay, I'm going to go again. Like, and it's just that. And that guy's like, wait, I want to record this. I want to show other people this. Hold on. How do I build the thing? All right. Hey, check out what this moron did. Let's make fun of him because he did this. He's like, yeah, I did it. And we're all like, oh, you're dumb for doing that. And he's like, but I'll do it again if you want to watch. And they're like, all right, we have an athlete. Like,
you said that it might seem like, I don't know, obvious, or this should be natural. But I wonder if, like, I don't know, do you think maybe the way that the economy currently is structured kind of prevents people from having fun? Like, do you think people actually need kind of a re-education in how to have fun?
Oh my God, yes. Okay. We're about to hop into the part of this where it gets like religious and philosophical, because
okay,
we're going to start talking about concepts being literal like,
we're getting into the woo-woo stuff.
This is as physical and spiritual and metaphysical as every other thing you could ever think of. There's a few caveats, and we'll get to that in just a second. But funny thing is, anybody who's ever said, move that object with your mind, hey, look, I'm moving my water bottle with my mind. And this is not being like facetious. This is like, hey, what is a mind and how does it work? And what's going on with this? Because this is the like re-education program in a nutshell as an explanation, not necessarily the process of going through it, which kind of feels like you're living every trauma you've ever had in reverse, trying to figure out where the hell that came from. So the thing that's going on here, though, is if you think about our entire universe as a shared experience, that's something created for us all to plug into. Like this is the Minecraft server. We are all characters in Minecraft. I don't like saying that the world is a simulation, but using a simulation is the easiest analogy.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor the other direction, not our universe is that. That is like this. Just kind of, they tried to copy the world, made digital realities, and we went, okay. So essentially, this is a place, this universe, you could think of as a confluence of two fundamental concepts put together in a way with four concepts to determine context, essentially. So you have the literal concept of everything and the literal concept of nothing. And if you have everything and you have nothing, then like it's just potentiality, right? Because you have a functional paradox where something else would have to come in to make it be anything else, right? Does that track? So
I think so, yeah.
So between everything and nothing, which would, if you created something with them together, basically create a potentiality of anything, but nothing's actualized. So then that is now a place where other consciousnesses, minds, beings, whatever the hell, can come into play. So your mind, the thing that experiences is you coming into here and being able to be anything. And that context starts to be added up. So think of how old is the universe? If a second was every time an interaction happened that created context, how many seconds old is the entire universe? What would it look like to be in different places within the universe based on how much context there was at this many seconds? Like this many things being generated. You're just generating context. As you add more and more context, you develop things like language and technology and barriers, and you're just adding context. You're getting more and more complex in the different ways that you can interact with things. Something went wrong somewhere where something that probably shouldn't have been doing this, or something just had a doubt somewhere where like, well, is it really everything? And so instead of generating anything out of the potential to be anything, because this is what you want to do, you start wondering what it would be like to have nothing. Why would you do that? Why is that what you're thinking of? And to go into a historical thing, like the idea is maybe about 300,000 years ago, where people or hominids were settling in different places. They ran out of food and water. Food and water was growing scarce, and some of them are like, "Hey, we should leave and go find food and water." And some of them are like, "No, this is my grandfather's grandfathers settled this. We've been here forever. I'm going to stay." And so some of them left, and the ones that stayed were running out of food and water. Like if you look at the history of Easter Island, you can actually see this in a sense playing out. I'm talking about this on a like continuously growing scale, where these people are like, okay, and they're being raised, being told, you need to try to not die. You need to figure out how to not die. And that's like the first thing where it's like, what do you, I'm going to die. We're going to die. I need to not die. Like, I need to make sure I have all these things to not die. What does that mean? Okay, Dad, I'll do my best. And then, as that keeps going, like it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And until eventually you have people not just killing and stealing, but eating each other. And I mean, it happened. And then like you have one guy who scampers off because he knows he's about to be eaten and, his parents were killed. And he finds like a village just a few days away from him that's having a great time. Like they're just like, there's food, there's water. And instead of going up and saying, hey, can I join you? He ran back to his tribe and went, there is this over here. If you follow me, I will get you more food and water and women than we have here. And so they follow him. And now we have the first robber barony. The first like, oh, I do this. Somebody rises up. They're not expecting an attack. They get killed. Then we start getting into this idea of might makes right. And, imagine that playing out, spreading across the world from different places over the course of a couple 100,000 years. All the way through our technology. If you actually look at every time there was a technological revolution that led to more people, it also led to a system that institutionalized a way of being more of a larger country. Like, hey, I have more people under me to attack you. Hey, I have more things to do this. Like industrialization and war and the idea of robber baronies, and also the same idea of safety. And this idea like we're going to reach immortality. We're going to not die. We're going to be able to beam our consciousnesses into a computer, because that's worked for alchemists in ancient China at 5000 BC. It worked for them. It works for us. Like, oh, I can put it into a tablet. Like, it's no different from any way, but it's the constant, like, same revolution of things coming from this one generational trauma of I need to not die, which is a very strange thing. If you're less than a day old, to be born into a world, look around and see everyone trying to figure out how to not die. Just emotionally.
And that's not something that tends to be very fun, it seems like.
Not only is it fun, death is inevitable. Like, how do you do something that is literally part of what you're doing? Like, this is temporary. You're in a character in a game. Like, hi, you're here to play, right? Like, did you come to do something permanent? Did you come to do something that was like, everyone will remember this for all of eternity? Because how? That doesn't work. And here's the thing, if science is right, and we're all just brains in a vat or whatever, right? Then maybe the exact way I'm saying this is the next iteration of an antibody to like the planet having an issue with its consciousness evolving, because every religious leader has tried to fix it. And I'm just going, what if it was fun? I don't know, can we try this one? Like, maybe that's what's going on. And that's the thing is, from where I'm sitting, I see everybody's like, well, it could be this or this, all the arguing points. And I'm like, yeah, what if it's all the same thing? What if all of it was the same thing? How would you know? What perspective could you look at to go, yeah, they're going the same place? As far as I can tell, it's what would be the most fun for you. It'd be really fun for me if this was true, because all of this should never have touched me.
All of this meaning what? The generational trauma?
The trauma, the life, the going to school, the like getting like attacked for not being exactly something, like just all the times you ever had an interaction that you never wanted to have. And for some reason you thought it was your fault. And every time you decided you needed to change something about yourself in some way, you doubted something about yourself because of an interaction you had with someone else and how they treated you. What if we just need to learn how to let go of that and go back to doing whatever we would be doing if people treated us the way that we expected when we did the things we liked, or didn't have anything to do with us? Because why are we together? Like, why is this touching? They should be very far apart.
Yeah, I mean, this is bringing up a lot more than I think I even anticipated to to be honest, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's one thing that's coming to mind is it seems like there's this idea of that at some point in our history as like a species or whatever, there was some sort of fall from grace or something like that. Would that be appropriate language to use or not so much?
I mean, I would say not really. If we want to put it in a biblical sense on the timeline, this is another part of why it's a religion.
Give it that Christian flavor.
I have studied so goddamn much religion. I just decided to contextualize. Look, if this is how it works, it all works together to what I'm doing. If this isn't how it works, I don't care because it's nonsense. So there was the Gnostic father, and before that, he was this bitch called Y-E-W, called himself a tree. I don't know. And the whole thing was like, oh, I want to experience what it would be like if everything thought it was me. And that didn't go very well. So he instead went, what if I am the origin that everything comes from? It all comes from me. And he decides he wants to try to figure out what it would be like to be the originator of everything. And so he walks in here and starts trying to convince things that he is their fundamental nature. You know, like, hey, we're going to play a game and I'm going to convince you I'm your dad. And now let's say, like, you know, we're on the level of like not humans with all of this context, but we're just like, I don't know, a couple of stars or nebulous gases. We're working our way through what context is. And something comes along and
practicing our nuclear fission.
We're practicing our nuclear fission. Do you have any idea how much nuclear fission has to go into cellular biology? Imagine if you had to understand how all of this works on some level to get to the point where you're using. I think that's a cool idea. Like, it's all sentient because it's all your extension of context. Of course, you don't want to spend all of your time sitting here doing cellular division in your finger. That doesn't sound like a great time. You'd rather it just does it on its own because you already know how it works. You know, working your way on your way on in, if you wanted to. So flip the perspective completely around. You work your way into being the most advanced thing in whatever quadrant of things that are advanced that makes sense for you to want to be. And then something comes along and goes, hey, I can help you be more advanced faster because I'm where you come from. And you go, oh, that sounds fun. And then keep that going until it runs straight into the point where people are like, I don't know where I'm at or what's going on, and I don't like it. Why do I have to participate?
So when somebody has something go on in their life, as you put it, like something that shouldn't have touched them, shouldn't have happened, what exactly is it that you're recommending people do to alleviate that sort of these kinds of traumas and stuff?
Yes. I love this question because the answer is as ridiculous as it should sound, but I can explain it a lot more like actual technical detail than just going, do what you think would be the most fun thing to do in that moment. Whatever would be like, you're like, this would be fun to do, but I don't want to deal with the consequences. That's the consequences are always the weird thing that everybody runs into, but I don't want to deal with the consequences. If somebody would do that to you because you thought this was fun, do you really want to spend time around that person? Is that somebody you genuinely want to spend time, to interact with, to express yourself with? Is that somebody that you want to be around? So if you're doing what you want to be doing, that's fun. And now when I say that, like, there's always the, oh, well, what about people that are murderers or this or that, like rapists or, okay, I think it'd be really fun to stop them with a crowbar.
Okay.
I think more people would have fun stopping them with a crowbar than they would doing something that isn't fun for someone else.
So is this sort of a utilitarianism of fun sort of thing?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, once you start having fun, you're like, why are we measuring our amounts of fun and utility? Why don't we measure tokens of fun? You know, if we need to measure tokens of fun, why don't we make them arcade tokens? So when people are doing things that aren't as fun, that are higher utility, we pay them in fake fun that they can cash in on something that they want that's more fun later.
Like arcade prizes.
Like arcade prizes. And it's only something that somebody's like, I would like to do this with someone if they can do this much thing because I enjoy doing it. It's not my job. Like, I might want to make a suit of full plate mail for somebody who does this much extra help for the community for jobs that need to get done and nobody seems to want to do.
But it seems like fun is like the ultimate like goal, right? Yeah. It's not like a means to an end.
No, it is the objective. It is the place we want to stay inside of. Like, if you think about it, if it's fun, it could be everything. If you made everything fun, and I know that sounds weird and scary, like when you first start going, well, how can I make this more fun? What would this be? What would that be like? You're like, would it be fun to walk around talking like this all day? I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. Like, what if people are like, what are you doing? And they get all weirded out. I'm like, I'm playing. Do you have a problem with me pretend? Oh, wow. Okay. I don't actually like any of you. Like, that's just all that happens. Like, imagine if you'd done that in middle school. If you just been like, hey, you know that weird thing I want to do that everyone's going to make fun of me for? What if I just did that? Knowing full well, I'm going to grow up and never have to talk to any one of these people ever again if I don't want to. I'll go find the people that are doing whatever the hell I want to be doing. Or they'll find me, I don't know, I'm just going to go do whatever looks like it's going to be fun. If it's not fun, I'll go, like, I'm not going to get like upset or despaired. I'm just like, oh, I'm bored. Okay, I'm going to do something else. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's what's so hard when you're that age is like you think everything is forever and it's like it's almost the exact opposite.
And the neuroscience now, you never stopped being that age. At no point did you cease being a baby because then you would have died. So you have a continuous progression of things as they're being contextualized as your brain is literally developing. And then your brain fully develops around 5-6 years old or so. And then everything else about your brain develops. Like you have the full brain size. So as that's kind of going through, you're using all of the context that you've been getting and all of the decisions that you've been making and everything that you've been contextualizing both about yourself and your identity and the world around you through those layers. So how do you go back in to those layers and think about them? Like there's no way that like, your frontal lobe, your logical, rational mind, which by the way is a stack on an emotional structure because your body speaks in emotions, like your neuropeptides, your neurotransmitters are also your neuro-emotional states, which are also the way that your brain stores memory and context, which is why when you're angry, you remember things that make you angry. And when you're happy, you remember things that make you happy, is because your memories are emotionally constructed because you're only supposed to be having memories if you need to remember why this is bad and what to do. So if everything's going great, like you're only remembering things because you need to go back and resolve that trauma. And you can have positive trauma. That's just laughter. Like imagine something was so funny, but you couldn't laugh about it because you needed to be serious now. So you're marching off to war to like kill people, but you just watched your friend like crap himself. And so you need to be stoic because they're after your women. You can smell him. And you know the reason he crapped himself was because he was eating Duran fruits last night. This wasn't anything about fear. He did this just to fuck with us as we're going off to possibly die.
Dude, imagine pranking your friends by shitting yourself.
Right?
Dude,
like
what a mad lad.
Like everyone wanted to be the kid that did that one time, but everyone was like, I don't want to be attacked for that. Yeah, but when you get to adults, like the older you get, the funnier a fart joke is. Why? Because when you were a kid, it wasn't that it wasn't funny. It didn't get less funny. It was just like, oh, have you not been beaten enough for how not funny that is yet?
So you think a lot of this like difficulty that people have with having fun has something to do with kind of like a repression of other emotions?
Fully. So last time you wanted to do this, whatever this was, however this appears contextually to your mind, which the younger you are, the more abstract it's going to be. Like the more just like everything it's going to feel like, and then you keep chopping it down into nothing. So you go to do something that you would enjoy, and that was a negative experience, and you go, okay, not that, okay, not that, okay, not that. At what point do you fully regress to go, when I was like 3 days old and that happened, that's what was going on? That's not something you can really get to because that part of you, like there's no, like it goes forward. So it's from the least developed to the most developed is how the context flows. So it's not like, the logical, rational part of your brain can go back and look at your emotional states. It can only go forward, like it's coming out of you in a sense. So if you want to resolve your trauma, to resolve your emotional states, you have to allow yourself to do whatever scares you if that's what you would do if the bad thing wouldn't happen. That's kind of the thing is if you're scared of something, you're acting as if that thing that you're scared of is part of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like when you get into this kind of mind space, it's like someone just says like if you're like, oh, I want to do this, but I can't do that because last time I tried to do that, my dad came in and tried to beat me with a toaster. And it's like, Okay, well, is your dad and the toaster in the room with us right now? Because to you, he is. He's there right behind you with a toaster.
And we're not being like
Yeah.
facetious or making fun of you or saying that's a bad thing or that's lesser of you. We're saying like literally, like, look to you right now. Like you're acting like he is. That's you're treating it that way. So what's going on inside of you that's causing that to happen? Like what part of you internalized that and is now like part of your contextualization? And you start realizing that if you're trying to have fun, that's when that fear comes up. So what's wrong with that? Having fun is the only way you can start realigning the more like logical, rational, ideological, conceptual parts of yourself, the higher functions, with the lower ones is trying to line them up with whatever would be the thing you would want to do the most and why that's something you should do. And you'll always be able to find a reason not to, and you'll never be able to find a reason to pull the trigger because the real reason you want to do it is you want to.
I don't think you're being like facetious at all about it, actually, because I mean, I know therapists that this is something they'll tell clients that they're working through trauma with about how they'll ask, like, this isn't happening right now. And that's like one of the weird things, like Lacan talks about one of the weird things about trauma is like this degree to which we're still attached to it. And almost like, I mean, I do it myself. I fight to the death to hold on to my traumas, on some weird level. It's like this attachment to it where someone comes along and is like, I can show you a way out of this. And it's like, no, this is what's familiar to me. It's cozy in here. You know what I mean? So it almost seems like learning to have fun involves working through some uncomfortable feelings. It doesn't sound frivolous at all.
And the thing with what you're saying is that attachment, why is that the way you chose to feel about that trauma? What is your reason for choosing that way to feel and respond to it? What was so terrifying that how you feel that you're holding on to this attachment is safe? Why was that so terrifying? And you have to let yourself literally feel all that fear, that whole panic attack you wanted to have as a kid, that breakdown. You just have to let yourself have that and know that adult you, older you, big you will do what no one else did and will be there for you. And more than that, if you can have even one friend who you go through that with and they drug you through it kicking and screaming, and you got all this and they're like, I'm glad you're fucking here, man. Like, that was awful. Like that, I could see how much that hurt you. Who cares if you're crazy or insane? If that's the level of hate they're going to leverage at you. Somebody wanted to hurt you that badly. That's insane. Be as crazy and weird as you want. That's not okay. And we're trying to start Funism as a religion because we're saying, if it doesn't matter what it is, if somebody hurt you, that's not okay. Like, that's not fun. You didn't get to participate. You walked in and you're like, hi, I'm here. What's everyone doing? And someone just punches you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Hey, everyone's throwing too many punches. Like, this is going to start sounding very Jesus-y, but not. Like, everyone's throwing too many goddamn punches.
Goddamn.
If you don't want to be throwing punches, get behind me because I want to go fuck with those guys. Let's go. I want to go hit everybody that's hitting everybody. And if you don't want to be hit here, let's go deal with all of that. And let's have you go anywhere other than being hit. And it just kind of feels like a funnel.
There's a lot of people who like hitting.
Yeah.
And why would we not let them hit?
And why would we keep them around people who don't want to be hit? That's less fun. They wouldn't get better at hitting.
So maybe it's like if someone likes hitting, maybe saying, hey, why don't you go to a concert where they have a mosh pit or something like that instead of hitting people who don't want to be. I don't know if you've ever been to a concert. There's like a mosh pit sort of etiquette, right? Where it's like if you're not consenting to be brought into the pit, most people are, at least most shows I've been to, most people are kind of like, they're not going to pull you in if you don't want to be in there. But once you jump in, you kind of are consenting to being punched,
Yeah. And depending on the mosh pit and where you're at, those rules go crazy. There was something, as a kid, it was called a biscuit pit for Limp Bizkit concerts.
That might be a little different, yeah.
that was like attempted murder to music. I don't know if I want to like give Limp Bizkit so much shit, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I was an angsty white boy. I'm not even white. I grew up in like the suburbs of Seattle as an angsty white boy with a narcissistic mother and an alcoholic stepfather. But I had no idea that both did drugs. But I had no idea because I was living like a good suburban life in like what I thought was an upper middle class neighborhood, going to a school where nothing bad happened. And I would get in fights every time I went outside, not realizing that I live in a shitty area. Like I was just like, no, people just hate me, and they're just gangs. I don't know. They're normal, right? Like LA's like this, right? I'm in Seattle. Like not realizing where I was at. So that was kind of a fun realization. We were like, no, you grew up here. I grew up with you. Like it's gangtopia. I'm like, what are you talking about? I only got jumped every fucking day of my life. Oh, okay. Like weird shit. So just that can change the way you perceive yourself. Just, I didn't realize I grew up in a shithole. Could change the entire way you perceive yourself. Because I think that people are out to get you for absolutely no reason, and now you're trying to make sense of that. Or you might wonder if there's a target on your back, or how are you carrying yourself? Do you need to be more aggressive, less aggressive? Like what's going on?
Like common denominator seems to be me.
Yeah, you're like the only thing all of this has in common is me. So what the fuck's going on with me? Where I'm a target for all of that. Like why does that keep coming over here? And see, it could be that. It could be childhood. Like how do you deal with that? And you can't go in and deal with it. You have to literally move away from it. Like you have to start moving in a different direction until one day you realize you're not carrying all of that around with you.
Do you think there are ever instances where someone does need to change something about themselves? Or is it always like just kind of do whatever's fun sort of thing?
Kind of that. So when it feels like you need to change something about yourself, if you actually sit and listen, you realize you're undoing something to yourself. And so the reason why you did that is scary. But every time you kind of unravel that little bit, you have fun. You're like, I like that. No, I want to do more of that. I like these people. I'm going to do this. I like this. How can I do this more? You kind of literally start moving. Like you could talk about it metaphysically. You can talk about it physically in your body. You'll start going to different places at different times with different things with people that are happening in different ways. And then when you start looking around, you'll see the world around you. We recognize ourselves in the reflection of how the world around us responds to our presence. So you will start noticing and seeing yourself as different. But if you do it through the idea of having fun, you don't have to go through all of the like emotional spirals of like, I was hurt for this. I did this. Oh, I have to break this with, for my therapist. You just start kind of walking away from all the parts of things you didn't want to be a part of that you mistook as being you or having anything to do with you.
Yeah, because something I also want to address with that is like you are just going to be you. Like on a fundamental level, you are yourself. Like, why would you want to change that? Why would you not like you? That doesn't make sense, And so it's like, if you feel like you're changing something about yourself, then is it really that you're changing yourself on a fundamental level? Or are you just changing something that you mistook as yourself? And like, you're always going to like the things that you like. The reasons are just going to be different.
That's Buddhism. That's like Buddhism.
Like
it's like,
but make it fun.
Like here's our giant joke. Okay. It's a religion. Why our giant joke is, what if science was fun? What if Buddhism was fun? What if economics was fun? What if this was fun? Oh, hey, look, it all works together. Why is no one having fun? What the fuck? Why are you alive? Like, you have all this money. Are you doing things that are fun? What are you doing with the rest of that money? Why are we not having fun? What the fuck? Like, look at all of our technology. Like, think of all of the cool fucking things we could be doing and how fun it would be and how great it would be if it was like you could discover new things or not care or do the old thing. Like, whatever. Everyone's trying to have a good time. But no, like, we need to have profit. Like, well, is that fun? Who's that fun for? Like, just what if it was this but fun? What if it was this but fun? What if it was this but fun? And so far, it's like a universal fucking hammer. It's like, if I make it fun, look, all of that needs to change. I'm going to go do that now.
Another question we got asked sometimes is like, well, why would you have like these little fun tokens you talk about? Isn't that just like capitalism? Isn't that just money? And it's like, well, yeah, but what if we took money, but we made it fun?
No. And we're not talking a one-off fun. Like, look, tokens, this is a fun thing. It's still basically this. And we're like, no, like, how would we structure all of this? So every interaction with it generated more fun. It originated from fun. And that's what Transcendence kind of teaches you how to think like without realizing it, because I never said fun one time in that entire book. No, I think I've said it a few times.
Oh.
I mean, I've probably said it's fun, like with your friends. But
yeah, we've said it in his
yes. Oh well, see, I don't actually know what's in there. I haven't memorized the very thing I wrote. Like you could say that I like wrote it via divine inspiration, but that would require I didn't like edit it 4 times and then go, oh my god, I fucked all this up. Like I just kept going, like I'm like, this isn't very fun. Like, oh, this needs to be like this. That'd be way more fun.
The amount of times where he has spent like months like mulling over a word.
Oh, like one word. I'm like, I don't like this word. This one word. I don't know what it is about it.
Like
but this word itself doesn't do anything.
He'd like call the editor and they'd be like talking about this word for like months.
Because is that fun to do?
Yeah, honestly, it was a blast because we're like, all right, like there is a concept, there is something we need to express, and we want to express it in a way where like when you connect it with all the other words, it's just like, yeah, obviously it means this. It's intrinsically understanding because the reference of this word in this context is beautifully clear. Like how
and a lot of the terms you use are pretty accessible, and they seem to kind of track with the way that, for the most part, the words you use track with the way they're usually used, which is in itself unusual. That was unexpected for me when I started reading, because most religious groups that have their own sort of lexicon, it is like, okay, I'm going to be spending the next several months trying to relearn this new language. There was one exception, though, and it was one of my favorite parts, which was where you defined the way you define happiness. You define happiness as the experience of basically watching someone else experience joy with something you created or something like that. Almost like that happiness is sort of this shared experience rather than something internal to me.
Yeah, the easiest way to put it is what Becca just said.
Inflicting joy.
Inflicting joy. Okay.
Like you
like
can't be more like I'm so happy. Well, I'm inflicting joy on people, but I don't want to say it in like that kind of term. Like, oh yeah, no, happiness is when you inflict joy on people, because then you end up with a Joker. Like, oh, I'm so serious. It's like, that is not what we're talking about. But how you do it with your friends, that's what we're talking about. It's always just, what would you do with your friends? Like people that you genuinely like being around, who genuinely like you. And if you're kind of mean to your friends, like ask them, like just be like, hey, can you call me out on any of my bullshit? If I'm doing something you don't like, call me out on it. If we end up not being friends anymore, that's probably for the best. Or we could end up being better friends. But I'd rather, be friends with people who really like me in order to be myself than be friends with people where I'm doing things that I can't imagine somebody wants to get up in the morning and go, I'm going to be a fucking asshole today. That's what I want to do. I want to ruin someone's life.
Wake up and choose violence.
Just wake up and choose like anti-fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to wake up and have a bad day on purpose and make it everyone else's problem. If you're there, how much pain are you in? Like, how much suffering are you under for that?
Like, how did you get there?
Right. And what you were saying with the lexicon, I'm a philosophy major. Every time I'm a philosophy major with over 100 concussions from full contact martial arts. I can't remember people to save my goddamn life. I get her name fucked up sometimes. I get my name fucked up sometimes. And you give me like the first 3 pages of a 50-page book. Are you just redefining terms without a definition? And then you expect me every time you use it to understand the weird esoteric bullshit all of you have put together, which aren't what any of those words mean. Like,
and the way you specifically are using it.
Yeah, like a word has a context. There's a lot of context in interaction because you have body tone and cue and vocals and emotional things. There's so much more than the word itself. So that word itself is meant to contain, as the concept of the word, the rest of the context of the interaction. Hey, look, you now know what they're talking about. So if you're reading words and you're looking at the way those words are put together, and you have to like try to like rotate your head off and your eyeballs in weird directions to try to figure out how to line up those words, they're probably not using the words correctly. They're probably being vague on purpose to keep their jobs, because if people actually knew what they were talking about, they'd lynch them. Because every philosopher I've read, not that I've read about, but that I've read their writings, because in order to be a published philosopher whose writings have been read, you have to be privileged enough to get your shit published, which used to mean money. So, Buddhism's great and all, but like, hey, anybody want to notice that it's a prince who never actually had to suffer? Like, he chose to. At no point was he ever forced to do things to survive that he didn't want to do. That was a concept not to say, remove suffering. And it's like, what if it's inflicted? How would you fix inflicting suffering on people? Well, if you inflict fun on them, that might work. Like, make your suffering pay for my fun, because those are completely off. So my lexicons should all make perfect sense to anybody who understands the language. And by understands it, I mean even as much as you just memorized the words and it's your second language. If I wrote the lexicon, you should hopefully be able to read that and then start to get nuance and context. Because when I say, like, if it's a different word, it's a different thing. If it's the same word, it's the same thing. You're just looking at it differently. I like using the words present and counter as demonstrations. So present is, you can say there's no time like the present to present the present. Those are all different things, supposedly. But if you actually think about it, those are all the same concept applied in different ways. They're different expressions of something that currently is, but is not known. So if it's the present, it exists. We're here right now, but it's not known because you wouldn't know about it until it's done. And it becomes the past. You wouldn't know what's happening right now, unless that's what you're paying attention to. But like, that's the thing. It's not known until it's over. If I'm giving you a present, you don't know what's in it. If I'm having a presentation, supposedly the people that are being presented to don't know what's on the presentation. So that's kind of the idea of present. Like, that's all the same concept with different specific applications. The word counter has way different things.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, so you have like a kitchen counter, and then you have like a counter, like 1, 2, 3, and then you have like a counter. So a counter is just an object that tracks other objects. However you track them is how you did it. So if you have a kitchen counter, this is where you put the stuff that you're tracking. Like, you're not like sitting down and eating at the kitchen counter feels a little bit awkward, or you're like, well, my food's here, I'm doing something. Like, you'll notice if you start paying weird little attention to like the weirdest nuance of language, you'll start noticing how you're using it intuitively and how you're generating. And if you're doing it to make things more fun, you'll start seeing how they align to the way that you're already trying to approach things. You'll start gaining more perspectives and you'll broaden things out until you start recognizing, wait, hold on. These aren't the same thing. That's a different word. Or wait, this is the same word used 2 different ways. What's going on here? What's the etymology of this word? Where does this idea come from? And then you start realizing that words are containers for specific concepts. So you can put context inside of that concept to then narrow it down for understanding. And since that's nothing that's ever talked about in any philosophy or religion or anything anywhere, I decided that's what I would have to do to get my PhD, because until that is somewhere in the world, I have no way of going, see, just try it. Just give it a shot, please. And because I'm both very lazy and very ambitious, I would like to like plaster it everywhere and see if we could use this to rebuild the world, because I don't really have anything better to do. Like, I can't think of anything that would be more fun than trying to make this place fun.
Yeah, you mentioned something about world domination when we were DMing about doing this interview.
Yeah, that's our idea of world domination, is how do we take over the world with fun? How do we make things so
How do we
fun?
make the whole world more fun?
Yeah, the whole world. Like, how is it more fun for bees? Because bees play with toys.
Bees are great.
Yeah, people don't know. Like, bees will
I agree.
Bees playing with soap bubbles. How do we make things more fun for bees? What are bees like? Are there different types of bees? What are their personalities? What would they like to do? Like, what if people were all about, like, the ones who are outside doing things are like, what would be more fun for that tree? How would I know? How would I know if that tree's having a better time? And what could I do to make its time better? I just wandered around just trying to, like, I want to funify this. Why? I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
That's how the farmers are like raising our food. They're just like, okay, how can I make these like green bean plants have the best time? And then when you eat them, it kind of has that kind of like intent behind it. Like, you're eating green beans that are having a great time. Because, you know, like Clayton was talking about earlier with the neuroscience and stuff, and the neurons, which are your emotions. You want to be eating those happy emotions, you know, they're in your body.
Like who knows why? Like maybe just somebody was interested, or you've been wanting to do a specific job for so long, and then a company that you're following is like, hey, we're hiring for this. And you're like, hey guys, like I've been blah 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 blah. Like, can I do this? Like, I really want to do this. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. Come join us. And the idea is to get everything kind of working in that direction, making that our society and making that our belief system and our structure. And the 501c3 benefits don't really hurt with that either.
And on like all of the
Are you working on that right now, getting tax exempt status?
I am trying to start a mead brewing business because I think that'd be great to like fund the cult with like drugs and alcohol. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like then I can like donate bottles to the cult and then we've got wine. I'm just trying to get the startup cash. But
it's slow.
It is. Starting a business is hard. But what was I saying with that?
Well, you're making mead.
Yeah. I forget what point I was trying to make. It'll come to me later, maybe if it's important.
Well, that's okay. I was wondering too while you were talking, is there ever a case where someone like has come up to you and been like, hey, this sounds great, but I can't have fun because of this reason or that reason? How do you usually respond to someone that says that they can't have fun because they've got to take the dog for a walk, they've got to do their job, they don't have time for fun?
Well, the way that presents itself is never someone saying, hey, I don't have time to have fun. Because if it's that case, it's like, hey, can we help you out? Or like, what would make this more fun? How it always presents itself is a weird screaming match that devolves into somebody hiding away in their trauma and deciding that they want absolutely nothing at all to do with us and dropping off the face of the planet.
I think that approach that you take is kind of, I mean, I feel like it's something I sort of learned when I was studying philosophy, that, you know, before I get like just sort of a drive-by understanding of what somebody is, like not to look at the labels or the isms and try to actually understand their arguments. And then I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten away from, you know, like graduated school and I'm kind of doing my own thing, I think a lot of the reason I like having these conversations with people is as soon as I find out that there's some new interesting thing going on, the first thing I want to do is I want to talk to the people that are doing it. Like I want to read the stuff that's out there that's being written, but I also want to hear it from the people that are actually doing it. And I kind of like to learn what I'm misunderstanding. Like I go in with a mission of like, what assumptions do I have? And let's see how many of those I can nuclear destroy by the end of this conversation. You know what I mean?
Because like I feel like it's really important to let people tell you who they are, and when they tell you who they are, you listen.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you think it might be fun and it's scary, just go do it. Embarrass yourself, make a fool out of yourself. And if those people, you don't want to be around them after you do that, then they weren't your friends. Because we would love to be around you. If you want to do something embarrassing or weird or funny, we will support you. And if anybody attacks you for it, it makes you feel bad for like having a good time, like, hell, I'll teach you ninjutsu. I will teach you how to like more than defend yourself. That's ours. That's how we operate.
Final thoughts from High Priestess. Have fun with each other.
Clayton and Becca, I want to thank both of you for coming. This has been a lot of fun.